Hi guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Happy spring. I'm here today because I wanted to do like a story time about my ex next door neighbor who like literally just vanished. That's what we're doing, and I'm gonna be doing my makeup, so I'm just gonna be talking through the story time. I'm gonna list everything down below so you guys can check that out. So if you're interested in a little story time, a little cheeseman, just keep on watching. This is good. This story was inspired because I was listening to the radio last week and people were calling in about their weird neighbors and like what they do. That was the spark of this idea. I've wanted to do this video in the past, but I was a little nervous and a little apprehensive because let's get into it. Look, I already went ahead and I applied my under eye cream, my moisturizer. This lip balm is pretty good. This is the Blistex. I got this from Target the other day. My lips are always chapped and this has been doing the trick. Let's just go ahead and jump into this story time of my very mysterious neighbor I had. This is a Maybelline Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser. I'm gonna start off from the very beginning. And all the products that I'm going to be using are going to be listed down below so that way I don't get distracted. The first day that my boyfriend and I moved in here, we were bringing our stuff upstairs. So I live in a second story, I guess this would be a second story apartment, but we don't have downstairs neighbors. It's just carports underneath. So kind of a cool thing about this apartment, I don't have to worry about like being careful tiptoeing. There's no one underneath us, it's only cars. My next door neighbor, which at the time I didn't know he was my next door neighbor, he was downstairs talking to a bottom neighbor. So they were chopping it up, you know, talking. We were like carrying our stuff upstairs. You know, moving is super hectic. So we were up here, you know, loading, going back to the truck, coming back upstairs. Finally, when we were done, we didn't know at that time yet he was our neighbor, but when we came back upstairs, you know, he opened his door and he kind of introduced himself to us. He said, I'm gonna change his name so it doesn't get weird, but let's just say his name is Polly. And I'm using Polly because it's gonna be relevant later. So, but I'm just gonna call him Polly for the sake of this video. He opens his door. He's like, hey, I'm Polly. Nice to meet you guys. Oh, it's only you two. He was trying to get a feel of who was moving in. And this man was in his, I want to say maybe he was in his like late 40s, early 50s. He was kind of heavier. He wasn't that tall. He was probably my height. So I'm like 5'3". He was probably like a 5'4". He wasn't taller by much. Just so you guys can draw a picture of him in your head. He was a white man. He introduces himself to us. This is the first time we move away from home without our parents. So we're a little nervous, but we're like excited. So a bunch of emotions obviously are running through us. Our neighbor's introducing himself to us, so we thought it was, you know, it was nice of him. But looking back now, he was just trying to get a feel of what kind of people we were, I think. Because we were young, you know, we moved in here almost 5 years ago, so we were like 24. He goes, oh, and by the way, your other neighbor from our other side, because we used to share our living room wall. So that's how we were neighbors with Polly. But he made it a point to point out that our other neighbor from the other side where our restrooms meet, that neighbor was also named Polly. And I remember this specifically because I made a stupid joke. Again, I was nervous. I was like young and I'm like, oh, we're sandwiched by Polly's. My boyfriend just looked at me like, he's like, yeah, before you guys moved here, there was a group of students. So he said that our one bedroom was filled with like 5 or 6 guys sharing rent. They pretty much used our apartment as a dorm, which was normal back then. I don't really see a lot of students here anymore. I see more of like families moving in and living here. I mean, you still see some students, but when we first moved in here, it was very normal to see like 5-6 people living in one apartment. So they would just divide it up into like a dorm. It was convenient. I mean, the university is very close to here, so I mean, it was very normal. So he starts telling us that before us there was like 5 or 6 guys living here and that one of them passed away. I was like, inside the apartment? And as soon as he saw, like, I guess my shock, because I was like, why is he telling us this, right? And he's like, oh, no, not inside. I guess he was out at the beach, they were drunk, and he drowned. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, why are you telling us this on our first day of moving in here? Whatever. We came inside. Honestly, the first night I was just very freaked out. Not only because he told us that, but also because, first of all, this guy that we just met told us that someone died. And I don't know if he changed up the story because he saw my reaction. I literally gasped. And then second of all, this is a new place, you know. Third of all, I'm away from my, you know, from my family. That first night was interesting to say the least. But I got a little upset because I'm like, why would you tell us that on our first day here? I mean, that was probably the third sentence that came out of your mouth. I don't know. So whatever, we got used to the place. Weeks went by. We kept it very friendly. You know, when we would cross paths, we kind of share the same pathway and stairs, so we would say hi to one another. And then one night, my girlfriend and my sister came over, and like we were gonna be going out that night, but I was upstairs still like grabbing stuff, and they both had walked downstairs. They were waiting for me. When I get down there, my friend goes, dude, what's up with your neighbor? And I said, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, he was, I don't know if she said he was wearing sunglasses. I think she might have said that because he was always wearing sunglasses everywhere and a hat. She was like, yeah, he was wearing glasses and he was wearing some gloves to go throw away the trash, but when he came back, he was still wearing the gloves. And I said, okay, well, maybe he's a germaphobe. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really see anything red flaggish about that because, I mean, I don't know, people don't want to touch the trash with their hands. Anyways, but she was like, I don't know, if your dog goes missing, you need to check your neighbor first. So she was messing around, but she did say that she got a strange feeling from this guy. And at this point, we were kind of like, we had just moved in here. We still didn't know what was up with him. Though I do want to mention he was always home. I think he might have worked from home. The only times I would hear him leave was really early in the morning before I got up and left, because his truck would be parked right underneath his apartment and it was very loud. So anytime he would, where's my concealer? So anytime that he would turn it on, it would obviously make a really loud noise. So I would kind of hear him leave in the morning or come back or whatever. He was never gone for too long. At least when I was here and I would notice when he would like leave, he was never gone for too long. Everything was still cool and dandy, right? We were over here living our best couple life, and so we kind of started furnishing the apartment. So we went to IKEA and we bought this. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's been in the background of some of my previous videos. It's a 25 bookshelf, and of course everything at IKEA you have to build yourself. So it was a Sunday and we got here at about, it wasn't even late, okay? It was probably 7, 8-ish. It wasn't that late. So we started building the shelf in our living room. And of course we started making loud noises because we were reinforcing it. So we were kind of banging it with a hammer. It was still early, so nobody come for me and say he had a point. But as we were almost done building the shelf, we hear on our wall. So we're like, I freaked. I was like, oh my gosh, is he literally banging on our wall? I literally froze. I was like, I couldn't believe he was banging on our wall, because first of all, it was so early, and second of all, that's rude. I mean, you could have came over, knocked on our door, we're literally a few feet away, and told us, you know, if we could keep it down, or, you know, resume our build a shelf the next day, right? So I got shocked. My boyfriend, on the other hand, he was pissed. So we ended up just finishing our shelf very quietly. We're just moving in, so of course there's still gonna be movement around, right? So off the bat, I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, I thought this neighbor was cool, like cool enough for him to come over and knock on our door and like tell us if, you know, we could keep it down, which we would have done, but he didn't. So the next day, my boyfriend sees him coming up the stairs and they meet. And this is where things get interesting. I just said his name. He said, hey Polly, did you bang on our wall yesterday? you know, my girlfriend and I were building a shelf, you know, that we bought, and we heard loud bangs. He wasn't trying to pin it on him, but he was just wanting to have a conversation about it. And you know what this Polly guy said? He's like, oh really? Oh, I don't know, I wasn't home last night. Could have been the cars downstairs. And then my boyfriend goes, all right, this guy's full of shit. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, like, because if we're ever being loud, you can just come over and let us know, you know, to keep it down. And Polly was like, oh yeah, for sure, I'll do that. Yeah, but sorry to hear that. Yeah, no, it wasn't me, I wasn't home, it was probably the cars. So he reports back and he tells me everything that happened, and I was a little nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, why did he tell him something? You know, I'm very like chill, I don't like confrontations. My boyfriend though, on the other hand, he's not afraid. That's what happened. So we're like, okay, this guy's full of it. He clearly banged on our wall, literally heard it, and now he's trying to play the dumb role. The next time I see him, he doesn't say hi as he used to. He just ignored me, which is like, okay. So there was definitely some tension right after that happened, that little incident happened. I would have people over and it was just always like I felt like I couldn't make enough noise. Like I had to be very quiet in my apartment because this guy already banged on my wall, and when I would walk my dog, I didn't want to run into him. Like it was just very weird. He created tension pretty much the first few months that we were here. And then I remember another incident. My boyfriend, I think it was like either Saturday, he was out here in the living room listening to music, and we got a call from the office telling us to put our music down because our neighbor was complaining. And I get if you have really loud music, but this was like 11, 12 in the day on a weekend. So it's like this guy was just finding ways to start pretty much getting under our skin, right? So we're like, all right, screw this neighbor. Screw keeping it friendly. He wants war, let's give him war. I'm just kidding. We didn't do any of that, but that's the kind of environment we were now in. Brought out this guy's true colors. We noticed that he had a camera that was facing like the entrance and exit of the gated apartment complex. So we thought that was a little weird. Like I get a camera like inside your home, but okay, so we're like, all right, this guy's just very almost paranoid, he seemed. And then him always wearing glasses and like a hat, and then he also had like a sunshade in his patio, his upstairs balcony. Yeah, so this guy was just already starting to seem very sketchy to us. And I get it, like people like their privacy, but this is just the vibe that we're getting from living next to him. After the years, I want to say maybe after a year of the whole incident, he kind of slowly started saying hi again. He would make small talk about Charlie, my dog, and kind of ask questions about what kind of breed he was, his name. So things kind of were okay. And then one day, I guess I was at the gym, maybe, I don't know where I was, but my boyfriend was home and he said that there was banging on the door, and so my dog started like barking because since the doors are very close together, sometimes it feels like they're banging on our door or they're knocking on our door, but it's really our neighbors, and vice versa. Sometimes they would knock on my door and he would open his door because he thought they were knocking on his door, and it's screen doors, so it's like you can't distinguish what door they're knocking on. Brian was home, so he opened the door, and it was actually, they were knocking at his door, and it was two guys. I think they were like the Mormon guys that come around in the bikes dressed in white. You know what I'm talking about? I think it's Mormon religion, right? So my boyfriend opens the door. I guess they were calling him out by his name. They're like, Polly, I know you're home. These guys probably know him. So as soon as he opened the door, they asked him, hey, do you know if your neighbor's home? My boyfriend's like, I don't know. He's like, oh, can you let them know that we're looking for him? We know he's home. First of all, we don't even talk to him. And second of all, that's just weird. Why are these two guys looking for him and being like super aggressive about it? Like, what? So he closes the door. He continues like whatever he's doing. He hears another knock at the door. So he opens the door, and it's our neighbor Polly, and he goes, hey, was someone just here looking for me? I was in the shower. My boyfriend's like, oh yeah, these two guys in bikes, they were looking for you. they said they were gonna come back, he was like, oh my gosh, I just remembered something else too that he did with this story. I'll tell you guys right now. Sorry, sister, I'm gonna be using your Fix Plus. So that was just another weird thing that someone's looking for him. Oh, and by the way, this guy did not have anyone over ever, or if he did, they were like super quiet about it, because I don't ever remember hearing or seeing anyone over. It was always just him by himself. He lived alone. I don't know if I already mentioned that, and I don't know if it's relevant to you to know, but yeah, he lived alone. Another thing that I just remember that he did when I was just explaining that last story, this happened before the whole banging on the wall situation. One afternoon we were coming up, we were out, we were coming back home, we were opening our door, and he kind of just barely opened his door, and he said, oh, by the way, some dude, some very tall guy was banging on your guys' door looking for you. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, he just banged on your door and he left. And we were like taken back by that, because we had just moved, so we were not really expecting anyone over. And then him saying that he was banging on our door, like that sounded very aggressive. So I was just like, what? Like, I was a little concerned, but then I was like, was this guy lying? Like, what is he trying to do? Intimidate us because we're young? I don't know. Whoever was knocking on our door never came back. And so this whole situation with those two guys looking for him, that happened. Like I said, he was kind of slowly talking to us now, but like just minimal stuff. So one day at work, we were like at lunch, you know, everyone was like chit-chatting. We were talking about like weird neighbors, and of course I had to put in my 2 cents about my neighbor, and I had told him like kind of everything that had happened and how I got weird vibes from him now. And I had a source, or like a connection. This source of mine was able to pull a report. And this report is used for tracking people that are past due on their bills, if you know what I'm saying. So based on my address, and obviously I just gave her my apartment number, so it pulled up my neighbor's apartment. The name on the actual apartment belonged to like a 98 or 99-year-old man with a completely different name. So I was like, what is going on here? After I saw that report, I was like, okay, this guy is not who he says he is. I don't think his name is Polly. I think he's someone else, and this is why he's so mysterious. Why wouldn't his apartment be under his name? And I get it if like people have bad credit, you know, you put someone else's name, you still have to be part of the lease. I just thought that was weird. Like, that was another weird thing to me, like that his name didn't come up, and that report's very legit. So at this point, after I got that report from my coworker, and by the way, she's the one that kind of suggested the idea of running that on him, just to see who he was, to try to get a little bit more insight of who your next door neighbor is. I never asked her, but I'm glad she did, because she gave me that report, and we were even more suspicious of him now at this point. We're more careful, because at the end of the day, you kind of don't really know who your neighbors are. So you have to be careful. Saying like we were trying to be as cautious as we could with this guy here. And that was one thing too that we noticed that he would do, was that he would talk on the phone a lot, and all his conversations were mostly on his patio, balcony. Is it patio or balcony if it's upstairs? I don't know. But outside, he would have them upstairs, and he would almost like whisper. You could never make out what he was saying, because I would obviously walk my dog and I would be coming back upstairs, and I could hear him talking, but I could never make out what he was saying because he would talk very low. So one day, it was like on a weekend, we get home and we noticed that there's a different car parked in his assigned parking spot. Did he change cars? We were like supposedly investigators right at this point, and we noticed that it had an Italian flag on the back. So we're like, oh, okay. But when we got here, we noticed that there was a lot of movement in his apartment, so we're like, oh, he probably has visitors over, which was the first time in like 2 years, I want to say, that we ever saw anyone over. I'm thinking it was probably family members, I don't know. So we're like, oh, is he Italian? Like, you know, we kind of like put two and two, and then his name was Polly. We knew that Polly was probably not his real name, but we kind of assumed that he was Italian. And so here comes the fun part. All right, I'm pretty much done with my makeup. I'm just gonna, sorry sis, I'm using your Fix Plus that you left at my house. Just used a little bit, pretty much done. Oh my gosh, I really like this lipstick. I thought it was gonna be super matte, but it's very comfortable. This is the Revlon Ultra HD lip color. This is in the color Seduction. Very comfy. It's crazy how the matte lipsticks have come a long way. They're not as like drying as they first were when they initially came out. Very comfortable. So during this time, my boyfriend and I started watching The Sopranos on Amazon Prime, and we would binge watch that show. There's 6 seasons, so we would watch it like every night after school. We would come home, we would put it on, and it's really good. If you don't know, if you haven't watched The Sopranos, it's an Italian mob story. It's an older one. It took place like in 2004, 2005, 6, somewhere around that time. And it's all about like, you know, Italian mobs, like killing, drugs, and I mean, it's pretty good if you haven't watched it. Everyone always raves about that show, so that's kind of how we got into it. But I just thought it was funny how we were, and it's probably why, but hear me out. So we were watching this show, and we kind of came up with the conclusion that my neighbor was Italian. I mean, we don't know if he is or isn't, but it's probably because of the show that we believed he was, and then the Italian flag, his name, everything was just kind of like adding up to him being Italian. So we were watching this show. Towards the end of the seasons or the show, the feds are trying to get some of them to confess and catch the main character, and then they promise them protection and putting them in like a witness protection program. And I don't know what clicked in my head. I mean, this is my own conclusion. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think. But my mind was blown when those scenes were going on, because I was like, oh my gosh, Polly is under witness protection program. Like, there was nothing that could make me believe it wasn't true. I think I got a little excited. I screamed it out because it felt like I had figured something out about this suspicious neighbor of ours that finally made sense after like 2 years of living next to him and him being super mysterious. Like, Brian was like, shh, keep it down, because we would watch it here in the living room, and of course, remember, our living room walls were shared, so we're like, he was like, shh, keep it down. We started laughing about it, obviously, because we're like, yeah, maybe that's not true. We're just so into the show right now that we're making up our own reality, pretty much. But then tell me why the next occurs, okay? I saw him a few weeks after. I saw him coming up the stairs without a hat. I don't know if he had his glasses on. I had seen him without his glasses maybe 1 or 2 times, because I'm telling you, he would always wear his glasses and his hat. And he looked completely different. Like, it looked like a different person almost. Like, I think he might have gotten some plastic surgery done or a different haircut. I don't know what it was, but I told Brian, I'm like, this guy looks different. Like, I think he might have done something to himself. So whatever. We go about our lives. Maybe a month passes by. I realized that I haven't seen his truck or heard his truck in the mornings like I usually do. And I tell Brian, do you think he went on vacation, or like, I haven't seen him in a while? Like, and he goes, that's true, huh? He hasn't, where's his truck? Like, his truck's not there, and we haven't heard him. But everything in his house still seemed intact. His cameras that were facing the entrance and the exit of the parking was still there. His shade that would block his patio, that was still up. He had like a little hanging chime that was still there. So we're like, he's probably on vacation somewhere, right? And then like, we start noticing that management was coming upstairs a lot. There was a lot of movement going on in his apartment, and it was like the workers, the maintenance workers from here. So we're like, they're probably fixing his, I don't know, his leak, because there was like a few occasions where management came up here and they were trying to get inside his apartment because there was a leakage on the carports downstairs. So we just thought like, oh, they're probably fixing that leak again that's always there. Or I don't know, they're renovating his carpet, taking it out. I don't know, because we started seeing them taking out carpet, so we're like, oh, they're probably fixing his carpet, right? Wrong. This guy literally moved out. I don't think he took anything with him, okay, because everything was still left. We didn't even notice when he left. We didn't see him move boxes. We didn't see like a moving truck downstairs. Nothing. We were so confused. We're like, wait, are they renovating it to move someone else in there? Or like, what's going on?
That's suspicious. That's weird.
This guy ended up moving. He didn't take anything with him. He freaking vanished. We had no idea. I thought he was on vacation. I just thought that was very, very sus. And to this day, I think he was in witness protection program. What do you guys think? I could be wrong, but my gut is telling me that I was right. And it was, I'm not kidding you guys. It was right after I was like, oh my God, he's under witness protection program. After I said that, he freaking left. Let's discuss. Do you guys think he was under witness protection program, or I'm crazy, or I don't know what else to think of it. I mean, maybe it's nothing, but yeah, I mean, that's the story of my suspicious neighbor that just vanished without a trace. I mean, I hope he's out there doing fine and living his best life. I hope he's not over there trying to intimidate young couples that are probably moving in next to him. I wish him well, I really do. Yeah, I mean, we have a neighbor now. It's a couple, an older couple with their dog, and we're always friendly. We have conversations about our dogs and like riding bikes. Completely different vibe from the vibe we got from this guy, Polly. I just think it's funny timing too, because we were watching Sopranos during that same time. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was life telling me. Maybe I'm just full of it. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about my suspicious thoughts about him. Let me know if you had any weird, funky neighbors of yours. I want to hear about it. Comments are open for discussion. That's all I have to say about today's story time. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to hear more story times, let me know. I definitely have a few that I want to do next. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up so I know that you guys enjoy watching these type of story times. And if you don't, just hit that thumbs down. And yeah, if you're not subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe, share this video, and I guess that's all for tonight. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.